Hey y'all. So today I am doing a sewing hybrid with Brazilian knot. So what I do is I put two techniques together. So today she wanted to do a sewing and Brazilian knot around the perimeter. Now normally when I do her hair we do a full Brazilian knot, but she has a lot of hair and she's like, I need something that is less drying time because her hair is really thick, and with Brazilian knot all of your hair is out. So we decided we're going to pretty much braid everything else in the center and then leave her perimeter out and put Brazilian knot there for versatility and flexibility and being able to move it up and down for her ponytail, because she liked to do a lot of updos and she liked to wear it down as well. So I'm creating her foundation for the sewing and try to make it as flat as possible because she has a lot of hair and we want to keep the braids pretty a normal size so that her sewing lays pretty flat. So I tucked in all the loose ends, and now I'm going to take the perimeter that I had put to the side out, and then I'm going to do some Brazilian knots. So I think I'm going to do like 2 rows of Brazilian knots on the perimeter and the leave out at the top to give her the volume and the versatility that she wants. So this is me pulling up the hair in a ponytail just to see how much hair coverage she's going to have. And then I'm going to do the Brazilian knot first. So these are the bulk hair for the Brazilian knots. I'm kind of setting them up together to see which bundle is going to go where and how it's going to blend, because I have the hair for the sewing there already, and then the hair that's going to go on the on the side. So this is me explaining exactly what I'm doing, the sewing and the Brazilian knot on the perimeter. Now doing the doing the Brazilian knots is to me it gives you the flexibility. If you don't like to take care of your hair, usually a sewing is best, and that's why it's called a protective style. Brazilian knot is not a protective style. Brazilian knot is a strand by strand technique, and strand by strand technique means all of your hair is out along with the technique, the method. So you have to make time to maintain your hair, and this is the reason why she opted out for the sewing with the Brazilian knot, because maintaining her own hair out with the extension was a lot of work for her. So you have to know what works for you. So she tried the first one, and now this is the second option that we're doing, and I think this one will work best for her. So we'll see next time when she comes back, if she goes back to the full head of Brazilian knot, or if she says, you know what, I like the hybrid method better, so let's stick with the sewing and the Brazilian knot. So now I'm going to start with the Brazilian knots. So the Brazilian knot lasts around the same time as the sewing. I always say 3 months. 3 months for any hair extension. If you have fine hair, 2 to 3 months. If you have thick, coarse hair, 3 months. Sometime a little bit, you might push it to 4 months, but that's it. Keeping your hair extension in for 6 months, I mean, that's the risk you're taking. But 3 months for healthy hair is the way to go. So the Brazilian knot and the sewing are going to pretty much have the same lifespan, 3 months. Some people do have a little bit of a hard time to get in on time, and they kind of push it to 3.5 months, 4 months. That's fine. So the Brazilian knot, I know a lot of people think that it hurts. It does not hurt. You'll feel it, but it's not tight to where you can't sleep. And you don't need to bring a bottle of Tylenol to your appointment because, you're not going to have a headache. It's not that tight. It looks like it is, but it's not. It's just nicely secured in. All right, so I'm just tucking in the perimeter that's going to be completely left out. No sew-in, no Brazilian knot. That's the hair that's going to pretty much give her the little coverage that she wants because she doesn't want too much hair out. So this is the hair that I have left out, and now we're going, so I think the back I'm only going to be able to do 1 row of the Brazilian knot, and then at the top it will be 2 rows. So if you've watched some of my videos before, you know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add the extension on top of her natural hair, and I'm going to use elastic thread. So the thread for the Brazilian knot is elastic. It's an elastic thread, and I wrap it around for as many times as I think. I don't normally count, but when I do training, sorry, I had to pause the video because of the siren. So when I do training, I teach my student to count to 10 or to 15 to know how many times they can wrap the thread around the hair. But, it's all on how I think it's secure. If I feel like it's secure enough, I just stop wrapping. So I don't necessarily count. I just wrap it. I've been doing this for, I've been doing the Brazilian knot since late 2009, early 2010. So do the math. That's how long I've been doing it. So I don't count. I just wrap it, and when I feel it's secure, I stop and I make the knots. And that's pretty much how it goes for the Brazilian knot. So she's going to have that single row going around, and then I'm going to do those sew-in, and then I'll go back to the top and do the Brazilian knots for that area. And the knots are pretty durable. They're very strong. A lot of people think that it can slide out easily. So I always say between the Brazilian knot and K-tip, Brazilian knots are very durable. They last, to me, longer than K-tip. K-tip have a tendency of sliding out from time to time. Brazilian knot, you really will have to pull, hard for them to start coming out, to slide out. It's not something that slide out. So usually when I do the Brazilian knot, at the end, I will take a brush and I will comb or brush excessively to see if there's anything loose to catch it right there and then, but it's not something that slides out. So it grows down with your hair, and there is no slide up or move up appointment. Like with I-tip, you have to move up the I-tip every six weeks. With Brazilian knot, it's not something that you slide back up. So you take it out completely and you redo it. So that's why it stays in place until it grows out. Kind of like the K-tip. If they don't fall out, they stay in place and they grow along with your hair, and then you take them out. So that's the same thing with the Brazilian knots, but it's done with thread. So if you have any latex allergies, you're allergic to latex, you're allergic to plastic, Brazilian knot will not be the option for you because the thread is elastic. Any thread that they use for Brazilian knots has some type of elasticity to it. Even the cotton thread has it has a latex. 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 thing in the middle, and then the cotton is wrapped around the rubber band of the inside of the thread. I think that's how it's done. I'm trying to explain it in the way that you can see, you can kind of visualize it. So when they use the cotton thread for the stretchy cotton thread for the Brazilian knot, it has some sort of latex or stretchy thing on the inside to make it stretch. So that's how it is able to be flexible and used for the Brazilian knot. And that cotton thread, you can actually pass the flat iron on it. The one that I use is just straight up elastic thread, so it's flatter and I work faster with it. That's why I like to use this regular flat elastic thread, but you cannot pass the flat iron on top of it. So that's the only, the only thing about Brazilian knot that someone may not like is that you cannot flat iron on top of the elastic thread. So you can still flat iron and curl your hair. I just say stay about a half an inch to an inch away from the knots, and then you don't have any problem. And I've been doing it for a long time, so it's not a huge deal, but just something that I think you should know. Okay, y'all, so I don't normally do a voiceover on a lot of my videos. I like to do the music and maybe type the caption to go along with it, so it goes by fast. So I started recording this about 2 weeks ago. I know I'm going completely off topic, but I'm picking this up 2 weeks later from the first part of the voiceover, and now this is the second one, and I'm hoping to finish this today so I can post it. I did this about maybe a month and a half ago, and I'm still editing, doing voiceover. Like, you guys that do YouTube, that do Instagram, that do TikTok, oh my God, y'all are the MVPs, because it's taken me a month and a half to put this together. So if I sound high, I sound low, I sound off, I'm doing this in sections. I'm doing this in between a client. I'm doing this when I'm at home and there are no kids around. I'm doing this, like I said, at the salon when there are no clients. And then I'm located in downtown LA. Downtown LA, there's always sirens and police cars going by, so I have to pause. And then that kind of throws me off, so I don't know what I'm saying. Oh, I know what I'm saying, but I'm just like, I'm not focused. And then I say, you know what, let me wait till I get home. I get home, and then there's so much to do, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to do it later. And then here we are 2 weeks later from the first time that I started doing this voiceover. So, all right, so let me get back to what I was originally talking about. So the Brazilian knots. So as you can see, this is very easy for me because I've been doing this for a long time. Someone watching this is like, oh yeah, I can do this. It's very easy. You just wrap the thread around it. But when you take a class, you realize, oh no, this is not as easy as you think it is, because you got to have some good tension in the fingertip to keep everything all together for it to not slide out as you're wrapping the thread. You have to get a good control of your pinky finger, because that's what holds the thread as you're wrapping. Every time you let go and you go in that circular motion, your pinky holds the thread. You see that as I'm wrapping, my pinky on the other side is helping me. So it's not just, I'm not letting the thread go. So that is a lot of wrist work, a lot of finger work, and doing this for 10 years plus, sometimes my fingers do hurt. So, I've been doing this for a while. It does not hurt. I know a lot of people, comment and say, oh my God, this looked like it hurt. And, it's a lot of tension on the hair. If it hurt, people will not be coming back to be getting this done. I take a lot of pride in my work. So this is something that I have been doing for a while. And I like this because I'm only using thread. There's no chemical involved in this. There's not a lot of pulling. I know people, who love weave, once they get with this, they're like, oh my God, this is so much better. And I also know people who, do the Brazilian knots and they're like, I like it. I want to like it a lot, but I don't like taking care of my hair. So that is the only drawback with Brazilian knot. Like any other strand by strand extension, it does require you to do some maintenance on your hair. Well, not some maintenance, you have to take care of it. And it is a little bit tricky trying to take care of your hair, your natural hair with extension, because a lot of time when we doing deep conditioner, we're doing steam, we're doing, scalp treatment, the extension kind of get in the way of the care that you're trying to do for your natural hair. So, for most people, they're like, yeah, I'd rather stick to the sewing so that I'm not, bothered with doing all the work. And then some people don't mind. They're like, I would do the work. And they see the benefit of having strand by strand extension. But like I said, for this one, she wanted to do both, to do the sewing at the top so that she does not have to worry about doing a lot of work, especially for someone who create content like she does. She's like, I have to blow dry my hair every day. I have to change the hairstyle, so I don't want to have to do that to my natural hair all the time. So if I have something that allows me to, change it up a lot and still be versatile without having to, change the hairstyle, then that's what we would do. I hope I'm making sense. But so doing one row of Brazilian knot give her what she wants. And because she tried it before, once she tried it, it's like, oh my God, let me have at least one row if I can't have the entire head, because that's how nice it is to have it. It's that freedom of feeling the wind blowing through your scalp and being able to run your fingers through. But she won't have the same benefit because she has the Brazilian, she has the sew-in in the middle. But she will have the benefit of both by doing the hybrid method. So if you want to try the Brazilian knot, but you don't want to do the full commitment, and you always do a sew-in with a leave out, it does not hurt to try the Brazilian knot, because it's the same thing as having a leave out. So I'm going to do one row like that, and then when I get to the leave out area, I'm going to do 2 rows to give her more. Now, the amount of hair that I put in the Brazilian knot is, I don't measure it. I don't weigh it. I just kind of feel it. And then I visualize how much hair it's going to take to go around. So, I've had people who ask me, well, how many, ounce do you use to do one row? It depends. If you want your hair super thick, I will use a lot of hair. And that's what I like about Brazilian knot, is that you can use a lot of hair. So when I compare Brazilian knot and K-tip, because of the keratin, has to adhere to your hair. You cannot have too much hair, too much extension to go around your hair to stick. So you have to use a certain amount, versus your own hair. But when it comes to Brazilian knot, because it is attached with a thread, I can use as much to give me exactly what I want, or I can use very little to do, to make them flat. Now, people ask me, do I do full head of Brazilian knot and at very tiny sizes? When I first started doing Brazilian knot, yes, I had, ladies who would be like, I want a full head of Brazilian knot, but I want them super small, tiny. And I've done them, and I don't do them anymore. Why? This is like a 2-day service. I don't have 2 days like I used to before. So I don't do a full head of micro Brazilian knots anymore. It's just too much work. So I stick to what I do now. I do every now and then get someone who requests micro, and I'd be like, how about we do the back regular sizes? And then when we get to the top of the perimeter where, you're more self-conscious of when you're pulling it back, then we can do micros. So these are the options, and that's what I like about, Brazilian knot. And like the K-tip, you can do the regular bonds and then the micro bond. But that's the thing with K-tip. K-tip only have regular bond, and then you can split them to make them smaller, but you cannot make them bigger. Because if you make them bigger, they will shed because they have nothing to stick on once you melt the keratin and roll it through the hair. Brazilian knot is repetitive work. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over. You're just wrapping the hair, and you're cutting. So that's pretty much all that I will be doing for the next, so that took me about an hour to do that single row and the two on top of the sewing. So yeah, about an hour. I've been doing it for a while. I don't really pay attention to how long it takes me. But when I do ear to ear, it takes me longer than when I do if I just go straight across instead of going the U shape, like a straight line. It takes me less time than when I go ear to ear. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my head it does. I'm going to try to speed this up because I don't know how you YouTuber do it. When you talk for 30 minutes, I'm exhausted. So I hope you all are learning something from this video, or I'm answering some of the questions that you may have for the Brazilian knot. Let me talk about the color. So coloring the hair, I usually color if someone bring their own hair or they're using my hair and the hair is not colored. Usually I'm using hair that's on the tracks. It's easier for me to color hair that's on the track than loose hair, because loose hair you can only go up but so much without disturbing the wrap where the hair is tied together, because once you cut that open you're going to lose a lot of hair. So you have to keep that together, and then that color will not penetrate through the rubber band or whatever is used to keep the hair together, the tie. So I usually color the hair while it's on the track, and then I cut the track off, and then I do the mixture. So because this hair is from her previous install Brazilian knot, it's already done or matched to her her color that she has and her root color. So if you want, your extension colored, you can purchase hair that's already wefted and give it to your color specialist or whoever you trust to do the color that you want, and then bring me the hair that's already colored on a weft, and then I cut the weft to do the installation, and that's for Brazilian knot that I will cut the weft. But for sewing, I don't cut the weft. It's already you've done the work. So I just wanted to put that out there for the color. So I would do some browns, some dark browns, some light browns, some of the honey blonde to, give her the color dimension that she has going on. Now this service, when I normally do a sew and weave, it takes me, about 2 to 3 hours, depending on how many bundles I'm adding. So 2, 3, 4 hours. But then when you add Brazilian knots, so you will have to add another 2 hours, because I have to stop one technique to do another technique. So, and because this is going around the perimeter, I have to do the Brazilian knot first, finish that before I can actually start sewing. So now I'm cutting these little tips of the Brazilian knot that were hanging out during the install. So I cut close enough to the scalp, but not too close to cut the thread and have it unravel. And it does happen sometimes. I will cut too close, and then I will have to, the whole thing will will unravel and I have to do it over again. I hate when that happens, but I don't mind it happening while I'm working. Sometime I would do a Brazilian knot and then I would tie it, and then in my head I tied it tight enough. They'll go home and then they're like, oh my God, a Brazilian knot fell out. I'm like, oh. It happened. So, it can happen where, something wasn't tight enough, and it will unravel on its own. Now, when one unravel, remember, it's a clump of hair put together. So it's going to look like a lot of hair. And I know that when people see a lot of hair falling out, they're like, oh my God, all of the hair is falling out. I'm like, no, it's just one. It's just one. So one little knot falls out, a lot of hair shed right along with that. So if you got in Brazilian knot with someone else and then, you had some shedding, a lot of time it's just one. And because there's so much hair clumped in together, you don't realize how much hair is in there until one comes out and it looks like a lot of hair came out. Anyway, isn't that pretty? I love my work. To be able to do that, to me, it's amazing. So here is that first row of the Brazilian knot. So I've done the side. So as you can see, the side is like three of them. Three of the Brazilian knot for the side, so that the hair falling on, that's coming forward will be all loose hair instead of the sewing. So really, it's just the hair that's in the middle that's going to have the bulk of the volume. And now I am sewing the hair. I think I'm going to fast forward this part and then come back to you guys. Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind me fast forwarding this. It's not really an educational video, so I don't want anybody to say, why are you fast forwarding this? I want to see it. I think you guys have a lot of videos on YouTube that show you guys how to do a sewing, but you got to see the basics of this, which is, I think, is all you needed. So I am done with her hair, and we got to the styling part, and she realized she has a meeting in Rio way too close to the time. So now I'm just like, okay, at least let me put some edge control, let me flat iron your hair. And she's like, no, I don't have time for you to flat iron this. Just let me go. And I am rushing, and I'm still trying to flat iron her hair no matter what. I'm like, okay, let me flat iron so you guys can see she has to go. So I am trying to put some layers in there while she gets ready to go. And we are moving fast because we were having a good old time. And it happened. You're having a good time, you're talking, and you don't see that time is just flying. And, by the time she gets a phone call, hey, where you at? She's like, oh, my God, what time is it? And we're cutting too close to time. So I gave her a look that looks like that's her hair. Because you see her, you would think that it's all her hair. I mean, just look at it. It looks like she just woke up, she blew it out, and you can't tell her that that's not her hair. I mean, you guys saw the process, so you know that, it's not her hair. But if you walk up to her, you would be like, yo, that's her hair. She just, blew it out. But I think we did a very good job. So if you were to do a sew-in and a Brazilian knot hybrid, where we combine two methods together, you can wear it up and down and, rush out of the salon, and it will look like it's your own hair. Listen, she had to go, but these girls gotta, do a little bit of content creation. And I was like, okay, we're done for the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'm gonna post this today.